Hey guys, Plasma XL here. Just last week we finally got more information on Ayato. I'm super excited for him, I hope you guys are too. With him and Ayaka coming in as banners in the 2.6 update, my wallet's getting a little nervous. In today's video we're going to be talking about the good things in Ayato's kit, the bad things, the things we're still not sure about, and then my overall impression of him. If you guys have anything to add or think I'm wrong in any of these points, please leave a comment or join my Discord. I'd love to hear your take on Ayato. Let's get started. First off, I'm happy to say that my speculation video was pretty accurate. I released it as soon as the cover art announcing Ayato released, before leaks had even come out, so subtle flex. I'll link that video in the description. Essentially, I said the most likely route they would go with Ayato would be having his kit centered around him being on the field, and for the most part it is. I was expecting something similar to Hojo in terms of an E-skill, which we got and I'm super excited about. I was not expecting them to give Ayato a burst similar to Ganyu's, which is actually a really good tool overall for a lot of the teams. This gives Ayato that main DPS feel while also giving him the possibility to be run as a burst support, similar to Ganyu. Now I'm not saying Ayato will be as busted as Ganyu, unless... No, just kidding. For him to be at Ganyu level, or at least close to it, we need to see between 2 or 3 of the following factors, which I mentioned in my previous video. One of these 3 things we already kind of have in the bag, more or less. Let me explain. So Ayato's E-skill, attacks at a pretty moderate speed. It does hit quick, but it doesn't hit too quick like Tartaglia levels fast. So even though it isn't fully checked off, there still is a chance of him being Genshin's first successful forward vaporizing DPS. The second thing he'd need, and this one's pretty much a must, is Ayato will have to have an elemental gauge on his skill of 1. Exactly 1. If it's 2, he'll probably completely remove Pyro from his enemies when he vaporize hits, and it'll be inconsistent. An EG of 0 basically means that he can't vaporize at all, and I'm fairly certain that Hoyoverse won't make partial gauges at either, so I think it's either going to be 1 or none. If they give him an EG of 2 or above, he'll be geared more towards Electrocharge teams or Freeze teams, sort of. Ayato has a solid off-field burst and a wide-hitting AoE slash for his E-skill, so Electrocharge teams would be pretty solid with him regardless whether or not he can vaporize. His elemental burst also gives your team bonus normal attack damage multiplier, which would be good for using him as a support for characters like Uemiya, but sadly not for the charge attack characters like Ayaka or Hojo. Even though they would function fairly well, this synergy just isn't completely compatible like other characters. So Xingqiu and Kokomi still survive in their current places in the meta, thankfully, at least for now. I think Ayato's burst would pair surprisingly well with bursts like Ganyu. Even his skill would pair interestingly with Venti's burst and Raiden's skill to cause constant amounts of electro-charged hits, something Tartaglia and other Hydra characters still struggle with today. Now let's talk about some of the potential downsides of his kit. The first point of concern I'm worried about is that there's HP scaling on his skill. Historically, characters that scale with HP have usually been pretty solid damage-wise, especially if they're a DPS character. But Ayato's damage doesn't directly scale with HP like Zhongli, and his attack doesn't get boosted by his HP like Hojo. Ayato's, based on the trailer, is only getting a damage buff based on his HP, sort of like Noelle that's not C6. As a proud owner of a built Noelle, I can tell you the damage difference between an attack buffed by another stat and a stat buffed by another stat are unfortunately significant. If Hoyoverse plans on you having his skill rely on bonus damage via his HP, they don't make his sword pretty much like the Jade Cutter, then Ayato's damage might be in trouble. This might be me worrying over nothing, and the HP bonus damage might just be the icing on the cake to an already good multiplier, but regardless, it's something to consider. My other big concern is the normal attack buff on Ayato's burst. This sounds good at first, but unless you're running him as a support character specifically, the buff would mainly be for him and his skills. If that is Hoyoverse's intention with Ayato, it reduces Ayato's potential to vaporize his skills, and instead of making him the first vaporizing DPS with good AoE, he would end up being a Hydro applier, and instead just be in direct competition with characters like Child. Not that I think Child's very phenomenal, he could use some improvements, but considering one of the new artifact sets is likely going to make Child significantly better, I don't want Ayato to be in direct competition with him for the exact same teams as him. This would be one of my bigger expected fears for my previous video realized. I'd much rather Tartaglia be the go-to hyper-carry Hydro Applier, Shincho and Kokomi fill roles as Hydro Appliers for Freeze and Reverse Vape teams, and for Ayato to put Hydro into the running for best element overall with the ability to be played as a consistent Vaporized DPS team. Ayato's characterization looks great, and his fighting style was designed phenomenally. Regardless of where he ends up in the meta, he looks really fun and I'm excited to give him a try. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I hope you win your next 50-50, and if you're a regular, welcome back. I'll be posting updates on my Discord as we find out more about Ayato. I'll update my YouTube with another video if anything major for Ayato comes out. See you in the next one. Peace.